right, so we are back. We are here with King T'Challa's father. No, just playing. No, we are here with another one of the actors and wonderful historian, great teacher, great, very studious in what he does. Oh yeah, that's you, man. That's you. You know, one of the writers of the movie of Reclaiming the Throne, Mr. Benai Israel, Mr. Hidden Hebrews himself. Man, we are a fan of your work.
Oh, praise you.
You know, first and foremost, man, what you do in this awakening, in this community, is really groundbreaking, man. Like, for real. You know, it's some of the stuff that you're doing is pioneer type work. You know, I always like to say, us waking up, we are the first fruits. And it's tough being the first fruits of something, you know, because, you know, even with a farmer, his first fruits may not yield the best crop. The tilling of the ground. Sometimes you may see a building, or it may be something that been on that ground that has to be cleared out. Now the ground has to be beaten. It has to be cultivated. And it may not yield the harvest that you wanted to yield on that first go-round. But now it's conditioned to bring forth fruit. So now we are all a part of that, man, and what you've been doing. But now you have sparked something to other individuals that could possibly take this thing a whole lot further because of some of the scrutiny, some of the hardships that you went through in the beginning. But we're here, my brother, and I appreciate everything that he is to this awakening, everything that you bring to this awakening. And ladies and gentlemen, Benai Israel, man.
You brought back some memories with that first fruits, though. Because as you were talking, I started having flashbacks of you know, actually doing the research and coming into the awakening and coming into the truth, and wanting to run out and share with people.
Yes.
And they looking at you like you got four eyes, and
exactly.
You know, they don't necessarily understand what you're trying to say. And I remember the frustration as far as like trying to get it out. You know, the first thing I did was stick it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Nobody was tuning in. Like nobody. Like two people. Like I wonder, like, how come this thing ain't going worldwide? You know. But you know, it just wasn't the Most High's time.
Man, that's it. And like you said, even the scripture talks about with increase of knowledge is also increase in sorrow. Because you know a way out. You know the reason why. But then people were so caught up, you know, the smoke screens or what we're used to or the traditions that we've made our own, that wasn't given to us. It was force-fed to us, and we made it our own. And we continue to walk in those traditions. But when somebody starts waking up, per se, when they start examining, when they start going in and saying, you know what, I'm not going to take your word for it. I'm going to go and do the research myself. That kind of stuff brings forth sorrow. And we've all experienced that. Where people are just not hearing what we have to say. They saying we're loony, you know, we mad, you finna leave Jesus, you leaving the Bible.
Are you authorized to teach that?
Yeah, you done gone loony, you just losing your mind. But you don't understand that we have a cure. You have a cure, man, and you just want everybody to be healed. You just want everybody to be, you know, to be set free. You want everybody to be delivered. You want everybody to have the understanding that you have. So therefore, you can serve the Most High in spirit and in truth. You know, we feel like we in the spirit. We feel like we got an abundance of the spirit. But the truth, what is the truth? You know, and His word is truth. The scripture says, sanctify them by that word. Your word is truth. So that's what we have to do. And man, that's what I appreciate that you have become a big part of, is bringing truth. So if you can, just first off, just give us a little bit. I want a little bit of your background. Where did you come from? What were you involved in before you started actually looking at some of the things in the scriptures, or things that may have been piquing your interest to look a little deeper?
I always tell people, like, I'm just the most regular dude you could ever come across. You know, I mean, really, it's just a person sitting at home going through, you know, how we could just go through the paces. You wake up, you go to work, come back home.
Correct.
You know, and just out of the blue, you know, your dad asks you, say, hey son, can you go and figure out where our family tree is, because at the time we had lost contact with our family that's in Alabama. So my dad wanted, he was getting to the age where I started asking him questions and he couldn't answer the questions. So he knighted me to go and try to figure it out.
Gotcha.
And so I went to the usual places like Ancestry.com and some of these other places where I could try to find out relatives and whatnot. And I actually made good progress, because I tell people I was able to find the family name on like a slave manifest. So I figured that, hey, we were over in Alabama and that's where we started from. But then I started asking questions like, well, where were we before this? And that's when I started to try to backtrack across the ocean, over into Africa.
Yes.
And you kind of land over in the west coast of Africa. The first what they tell you is like the first part of the transatlantic slave trade. And I ran into a lot of the usual narrative as far as where we came from, and of course the narrative. Oh, you was hanging on trees.
Exactly.
We rescued you. You ought to be thankful. That sort of thing. But I started to find, because I think in my line of work, I'm an IT person by trade, and part of my line of work is analyzing stuff, like troubleshooting root cause. So I have to look for patterns. Like my biggest thing is looking for patterns. And so when I started to research, I started to find a pattern. I was like, wait a minute. Every time I come across an old book says this. Every time I come across a new book, it says this. And basically it was like, old books talk about the Jews being black, especially in Spain and Portugal. New books said that they're white. Just regular investigations. Well, why is it different? That sort of thing. And so that's what started me down the whole path of researching and trying to figure out why things were the way they were. And what I tell people is like, when you're doing your history, it's a place and time. It's a place and a time where our history is located. A place and a time. So the time is before like the books before like 1850. That's the time. And the place was over in Spain and Portugal, because that's where our history started off at. And I found it, like, once you find that place and time, and then you focus your energy, doing the research there, you find a treasure trove of information as far as our history is concerned.
Yes, and that's, and like you said, even dealing with the Spain and Portugal, because like we were just conversating before we started,
right.
Me being a rapper, artist, stuff like that, but you even going into that research and finding out that we wore black hoodies. We were known as the ones that wore black hoodies.
Right.
And we had some kind of gold chains, and they would see us doing spoken word.
Living in ghettos.
Eating
chicken, actually. That's one of the
Eating
things.
chicken in the ghettos. So that if that ain't our makeup, then what is,
Yeah.
But seeing that even showed me, even from that aspect, that African Bambaataa and them didn't, Sugar Hill and all them, they didn't do that.
Nope.
This was way before them.
Yeah.
This came, from our history books, our culture, the scriptures. But you telling and stating that this was before you even put any of that research out, just in conversation, you told me this, and it sparked something in me. And it gave me a drive, even in that area of music, to go back and get what was ours, to go back and claim what was ours, to reclaim that throne, which was ours. So now we find you inside of Reclaiming the Throne, this wonderful movie, this wonderful docuseries that, like we've been saying, will be talked about from generations on in, will be passed around as heirlooms, as treasures, as stuff that'll be you'll find it in a safety deposit box, along with gold, silver, and there's Reclaiming the Throne.
Right.
So those different things that you are a part of, man, like really, sometimes even coming up in life, we may have had people told us we'll never be nothing. You never amount to nothing. Yeah. You're going to be just like your sorry daddy, just like your brother, or just like your uncles. But then now you have people that are coming up and that are a part of, they are a part of something that is so, you can't describe it. it's because it can't be traced. It can't be measured.
Yeah.
It's immeasurable. You can't say, well, here it is and it's going to go tomorrow. No, you can't say that because it's going back to the beginning and then it stretches to eternity. But you being a part of that, and even in the segment of the film that you're in, the stuff that you're describing is a part of that transatlantic slave trade, where our roots and our origin started, or what we were doing before we got here. So if you could just explain just a little bit of that, what was your process? What was your I don't know if you can initially, if you remember, what was your initial expression when you first identified us as being the people?
Well, I'd say it was, so the process actually changed. So remember, because I know I forget when we were talking about this, but you know how you try to approach it with family, try to share the truth with family and friends and stuff like that. So I used to be the kind of person that I would try to track them down and say, hey, beat them over the head with no, this is the truth, and give them reference after reference after reference. But going through like the research with the movie and Reclaiming the Thrones, it's like one of the things I realized is that it's an honor to be Israel.
Yes,
it's an honor to be Israel. It's an honor to be the family of David. And that was one of the things that we touch on in the movie. And it's like it's almost like if someone's trying to give you a promotion, like they're trying to track you down to be the VP or the president of a company, and you're like, no, I don't want it. No, but you're the VP. You're the CEO.
Wow,
no,
yes.
It's like after a while, it's like, would you hire anybody that didn't want to be a VP? And that's how I feel about this information that's coming out. It's like it's an honor and a privilege, like this information that's coming out, because one, it explains a whole lot. Like all this stuff that's happening in the world is, when you have the people, when it comes to prophecy, when you have the people of prophecy mixed up, then prophecy makes no sense.
Correct.
But when you get the people in the right place, then prophecy makes sense. And so that's why when you look at this movie, when you look at Reclaiming the Thrones, it explains who we are, the people of children of Israel, and people will ask you, well, there's neither Jew, no Greek, neither bond, no free. There's no reason, no need for you to know who you are. But what I tell people is like, well, there's prophecy that has to do with Israel, that has to be fulfilled, whether you agree with it or not. It has to come to pass.
Correct.
And then so once you understand that, in present day, you're able to put things into this proper perspective, and to me, it gives you shalom. It gives you a whole lot of peace and shalom, knowing that hey, that you are the people of the book. The one thing that one of the things that this movie does lay in your lap is proof, because a lot of the times when you're trying to sit down with family, it's like you said, they're always trying to grill you on proof. What does it say? Give me a book that shows me what you're talking about, and you can give them 30 books. And that's the thing about this phenomenal about this movie is the sheer volume of references that's contained in this movie.
Yes, and
not all of it is in the film. I'm sure Chief will tell you, is like, you can only put so much, in the film. A lot of that stuff you got to, some of that stuff you have to leave out.
Correct.
But there's so much more, so many references that's behind it, and that's why it's so factual. That's why it's so when it comes to the truth and presenting the truth, it's so overwhelming. And that's the thing that I was worried about, was the sheer volume of information that we wanted to share with people trying to figure out who they are, this knocks it out the park.
And that is the truth. Like you said, it makes it, it's irrefutable. You can't rebuttal.
No.
You just be rebuttaling just because your will is to rebuttal.
Right.
Because the proof is in the pudding. Like it really is. Once you see those things that tie, and if you really think about it, this is the only thing really that people would challenge you on like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can go to a doctor, and the doctor tell you, your high blood pressure because you've been eating too much salt, shrimp, pork, all that stuff. And be like, never say, how you know that, doctor? Well, show me evidence, doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that. We'll take that stuff as word, as bond, as true.
Yep.
We won't say, who was your teacher?
Mm.
Well, don't you know a man wrote that? We don't do that. in that space. But when it comes to finding out who we are, that's why, a saying that says, a man convinced against his will is of the same mind still. Because if you, like the scripture says, because you will not to come to me. You will. Your will is to not want to accept what truth is, to accept who you are. But like you said, it's a great shalom that comes with it, because it shows you, man, I am not who they said I am. I am not what rap has told me what I was. I'm not what the drug dealers and the people on the corner are telling me that I am. I am not what the Egyptologists and all these people are saying that I am.
Yep.
Because now I have evidence. I have something I can stand on.
Right.
I have something I can tie myself to. And then now that automatically wakes up something in you. And it also makes you shoulder some kind of responsibility, because now
it is.
you have something to live for.
Yeah.
Because now you understand your purpose and the things that you're supposed to be doing in this life.
Yeah.
And it's all detailed inside of the film that you're a part of, man. And that is an awesome thing to be, a part of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, so another question I have for you. So how did it feel? Like, because we don't know if anybody's a actor, your acting background. How did it feel to be in front of that camera, being able to get that truth out to millions all in one shot?
Oh, it was surreal, and it wasn't one shot. It was a lot of stuttering going on, and thank goodness for teleprompters, because one of my not strong points is like going off the cuff. Like when you drop those lyrics, man, that's what I admire about you. It's like you can drop it on the dime, but
man, it's always most high.
But as far as me, I got to have it written out. So once we got the teleprompter things was told, things was good. But yeah, it was surreal, because like I said, at the end of the day, man, I'm just a brother just like everybody else. Don't wake up and just glide to the restroom and glide downstairs, glide to the car. I'm doing everything that everybody else is doing, man. And like I said, it's to me, it's surreal. It's an honor. It's a blessing. I'm just, it's a blessing to be a part of it. And I just can't wait till the truth goes to the four corners of the earth. And that's what this is helping to do. It's a lot of information. A lot of information.
Yeah, and that's a that's also an awesome thing, because it's like all the information just can't be contained in just one film.
Mm-hmm.
You can't capture everything in just one film. So that continues a work.
Yeah, it's a journey.
It's a journey.
And this is just the beginning. When I tell people, it's like, this is just, and that's why I kind of feel like, just we're kind of getting into the last days, because what I tell folks is that, we're not necessarily the pioneers of information, because there were elders that came before us.
Correct.
That had the baton and they handed it off to us.
Correct.
When it came, especially with me, when it came to the information about Spain and Portugal, there was a gentleman by, I think it's J.A. Rogers.
Okay.
He literally when you go through his books, he literally walks the history down to the west coast of Africa. And he kind of ends it at the point where he's saying, just kind of paraphrase what he mentions in his book. He says something to the effect of, history will be made when we can figure out like what happened in this area. 'Cause basically he was able to track and trace the Israelites to the west coast of Africa, but that's as far as he can get.
Yeah.
He could get at the time. And then fast forward to today, we were able to, through the praise the Most High, we were able to not only identify what went on the west coast of Africa, because we looked at things like the names of the people that got on the slave ships. And it's funny because a lot of times when you get pushback from people, they'll deny, we are who we are, at the same time having an Israelite name tag on the back of the shirt, in the jersey. And that's another thing. It's like, even the name, I tell people, even the name Negro, like people will say, Negro's just black. But not only is it black, but it's a Sephardic Israelite name.
That's right.
And it's like, so we have all these things, like you said, that the Sephardic, for lack of a better term, Sephardic Israelites do. All the characteristics. We're a match. Like if you listed out a list of like a profile, you were looking for somebody. Like you had a wanted ad up. It's like, oh, he's 6'4", brown eyes, short hair. Da, da, da. And so the profile for the missing Israelites, because people they'll agree that they were there. They'll agree. I mean, especially when you look at the old references, they'll agree that they were dark skinned people, that they were black people.
Yeah.
They'll agree on all this stuff. And if once you look at this list of what they agree with, being dark skinned, having Israelite names, like you're saying, rapping, having hoodies. One of the best references that I still can't find to this day, that it was describing a session of when they were dropping lyrics, and it was actually in this amphitheater, and it talked about them, just dropping these lyrics, and it described one of the brothers as, like it said, like their tendency is to wear chains. So they would have chains on, dropping racks, having hoodies and all this stuff, living in ghettos,
eating chicken,
of course, be rocking the beards or whatnot. Of course, having being called Negro, by the way.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's the profile that if you were to take that profile out and apply it to somebody here, or just kind of read that profile out loud, you're just like, oh, I know who that is. Those are those Negroes in the States.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. And man, that's key, because you are identifying the small things. Mm-hmm. The small it's those small foxes can spoil a vine, but it's also the small foxes that help cultivate a vine. Right. So the small things, like I remember I was talking to my dad for the first time about who we were and who we are and what we're doing. He was like, man, I don't know about all that. I said, Pop, it's even fried chicken in the scriptures. No, it ain't. You crazy. Ain't no fried chicken in the scriptures. And I showed him. He's like, it's fried chicken in the scriptures.
Watermelon's in there too. Watermelon's in there too.
So even all of those things, man. And it's like you said, we are reestablishing something that was already cemented. Mm-hmm. Like this stuff is not going anywhere. No. You tried to kill it off. You tried to castrate it. You tried to rip it apart. Right. But it's still there. Yep. And now it's coming a time where people are waking up, and they're being able to trace these things. Yep. And now we're being restored. We are reclaiming a throne. We are reclaiming a heritage. We are reclaiming our customs, reclaiming our families, man. Yeah. Because when you have these things, now that family structure has even a stronger base to stand on. If you talk to a lot of people now, why is marriage good? Why should I get married? Why should I do this? Right. There's nothing solid and cemented that somebody outside of the scriptures really tells, because they say, well, that's just what we do. That's just something you're supposed to do. You find somebody when you're tired of running women, you're tired of doing this, and you find that one. Right. You settle down with them and you have children, but it's not that takes away the importance of still multiplying seed after your kind, especially if you don't know who you are. You just producing confused people. Right. You still producing blind, confused people. But what you're doing now, what you're part of, is establishing identity inside of our people, where they can now say, man, I am a king. And out of me comes kings. And not even out of me, I am responsible for what comes out of me.
I don't know if people grasp that, though. Because people, they'll grasp, like, it's almost like in stages. Like, you'll tell them that they're Israelites, and you got to fight with folks about that. And like I said, with reclaiming the thrones, we put the information out there, or the proof, or the evidence out there that we are Israel. We are Israel. We can actually trace it back, and the likelihood of you not being Israel is minuscule. Especially when you look at the sheer volume of evidence. You look at things like the laws that were in place, because a lot of people will say things like, they'll try to portray it as if it was like the Wild West on the west coast of Africa, and that was not the case. Correct. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole on that one, but. Anyway, I'll just stop.
Hallelujah, man. But I tell you, it's been a pleasure and an honor, man. Just being connected to you. From the first time I met you, it's like we just clicked, man. We had I had a respect and a love for you. I even remember at Yeah. So we like to thank Benai Israel for being a part of just this interview, D28 production, sitting down with us, being able to just speak on a little bit about the film, man. And also subscribe to his channel as well, Hidden Hebrews. You want to make sure you subscribe to that, to all the future things that he has going on. But it's a pleasure and an honor.
Pleasure, man.
Much love.
Yeah,
Shalom.
Shalom.